Greetings everyone, I am Ngqabuto Nicholas Mabhena. We are discussing the possible outcome by the minister in terms of the future of the Zimbabwe exemption payments. Remember that the Immigration Advisory Board is now in place, and amongst others, it has to advise the minister on what should happen to the holders of the Zimbabwe exemption payment. But the majority of the holders of ZEP have indicated that they want to move to other visas, as announced by the minister, that those that want to move to other visas, they will be assisted to move. This is why Department of Home Affairs then allowed ZEP holders to apply for waivers. And of course, ZEP holder, when they apply for mainstream visas, they are not the decision is not going to be based on the points system. They are exempted from the points system. But any person who's a non-ZEP holder who applies for any visa, they have to go through the point system. So their outcome is going to be based on whether they qualify in terms of the point system or not, which is an exemption to the holders of the Zimbabwe exemption payments. So we expect that towards the end of the year, the majority will have submitted their applications to move to other visas. So it might become academic in terms of the advice that the Immigration Advisory Board gives to the minister, assuming everyone or the majority of the holders would have moved. Of course, we note the rejections that are there, which we think contradicts the decisions that were announced by the Department of Home Affairs through the minister. Remember that holders of ZEP were exempted from submitting their evaluated certificates from the South African Qualifications Authority. They were exempted from doing that. They were exempted from submitting a letter from the Department of Labor and Employment, which makes it not easier, but which makes it better for trying to get a proper word, which makes it better for people to apply to move to other visas. So when the decision then is made on the future of ZEP, the majority will have been moved or have moved out of the ZEP, which, given that the advisory board might say the Department of Home Affairs has indeed assisted holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permits, they've moved to other visas, which are now guided by the Immigration Act. Remember that we spoke about the ZEP, that it was given or issued under special circumstances in 2010, and the then minister, Honorable Motsoaledi, had said that you can't continue perpetual with a special arrangement. You need at some point to bring it to an end and offer something which is kind of permanent. So that was the rationale behind the decision, as we understood from Minister Motsoaledi when government said it was going to discontinue. Of course, we did not agree on the basis that the majority will not ordinarily qualify for a general work visa. So when we raised these issues that the majority of ZEP holders are people of low skill or running small businesses, then the response was that, okay, we understand your issues, the issues that you are raising, we will grant waivers so that everyone who's willing to move would move. So we then welcomed that because a domestic worker, a person that work in an industry, a driver, someone who works in a retail shop would qualify to move, which ordinarily will not be the case. And this person will not need to apply in terms of the points system, because if you are not a holder of ZEP, you need to, there are points-based system that is in place, but it exempts holders of the Zimbabwe exemption payment. So we think that assuming a decision was to be taken that government was correct, people have been given enough time to move to other visas. If people have been assisted to through waivers and so forth, it will not, in our view, not be indeed a crisis. Of course, there is the question of permanent residence, but from where I'm sitting, I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but when one reads the political temperature in the country, when you look into unemployment rising in South Africa, one does not think that it might happen given the numbers. Yes, of course, anything is possible. We have spoken about the contributions that people have made to the South African economy. If that happens, it will be a bonus. But so our encouragement is that those that have not yet applied for waivers to move to other visas should do so. Those that have been rejected for one reason or another should appeal, so that, or even start a fresh application, because your ZEP is still valid until the 28th of November 2025. But the challenge would be those that then apply for an exemption. Remember that then Minister Motsoaledi announced an exemption to say that those that didn't want to move to other visas, who wanted to wind down their business in South Africa, they want to leave South Africa at some point in time, he then granted an exemption which expires end of November 2025. So if then the immigration advisor report is led by Comrade Msimang, would then say people should, the government was correct, then it means that if you're a holder of an exemption, you will be, by 2026, you will not be legal in South Africa. So it might mean that you might have to rethink your decision. I've not spoken to the team in terms of if one has an exemption, can the same person still then go back and apply for a waiver for it to be granted and then apply for a general work visa. I've not checked with the team that does the application, but I'm seeing a situation where, given the numbers that have moved or have applied for general work visas, and if the Department of Home Affairs grants those visas, general work visa and so forth, the immigration advisor report might say, yes, the decision not to extend ZEP had a huge impact on the holders of the Zimbabwe exemption payments, but government has since assisted people to move to other visas. So it's something that is of interest. So, but as I'm saying, as I'm concluding again, is that if you applied for an exemption and the exemption is expiring, and the immigration advisor report advises the minister that government was correct and it has taken steps to assist those that would not ordinarily qualify, you might find yourself in difficulties once your exemption expires. But please, I know that others they've been insulting us, saying we're misleading holders of ZEP, they shouldn't have applied and so forth. But we needed to try to find a balance in this. Like I'm saying that if permanent residence is granted, it's a bonus. But as I'm saying, where I'm sitting, I'm not very sure. I'm not very sure if that would happen, because we need to be truthful. We need to start what is obtaining on the ground. So yeah, but please write your own comments, like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're on TikTok, please do follow us. Otherwise, goodbye.